Boa tarde. Nesse momento, teremos as apresentações dos trabalhos dos jovens pesquisadores da UX. Primeira apresentação, então, é da Aline Vieira.
Good afternoon. Thank you all for being here. I'm Aline. I'm going to present to you about my research on the use of Trichoderma sp on the biological control in culture against pathogens on the Coleotrichum genus. My advisor was Gisele, and we worked at the Vegetable Biotechnology Lab. And just to sum it up, in our culture, in our region, the grapevine is a very important culture, and its extremely economical significance raises some concerns about phytopathogens, because our region is very known for its great wines and grapevines. In the context of modern biotechnology, we've been researching about new ways of biological control, and Trichoderma sp is one of the most prominent fungi in the last decade's researches. Instead of using damaging agrochemicals, we try to come up with new solutions of biocontrol. Within the context of biotechnology, our objective is to test the efficiency of Trichoderma against pathogens of the Coleotrichum genus, Coleotrichum acutatum, Coleotrichum fruticola, and Coleotrichum glosporioides. In our methodology, we used the fungi isolates as an antagonist, Trichoderma sp, M1c, and as the pathogens, Coleotrichum acutatum, Coleotrichum fruticola, and Coleotrichum glosporioides, as you can see their colonies. In our methodology, we used potato dextrose agar medium, and we replicated both the pathogen and antagonist for 7 days. Then we replicated them again in Petri dishes, putting the pathogen on the left side of the dish and the antagonist on the right side. We incubated them in BOD chambers for 14 days, and we measured them regularly. In our results, we got significant reduction in mycelial growth speed in all of the treatments, up to 55% reduction in mycelial growth speed. Now, talking about percentual inhibition, we got great results, up to almost 80% in Coleotrichum glosporioides, but Coleotrichum acutatum had a significantly smaller percentage. Sorry. Similar researchers got similar results with Coleotrichum sp and Trichoderma viridi. And just in our final overview, we conclude that Coleotrichum and trichoderma have a great relationship of inhibition, as in trichoderma was able to inhibit most of the pathogens colony in the dish, but in the case of Polytotricum acutatum, that was not possible because the antagonist only overlapped the border of the pathogen colony. Further in vitro experiments are recommended. Thank you.
A segunda apresentação, então, é do Eliel Isaías Vargas Ragasson.
So, hello everyone, my name is Eliel Ragazon. I'm from the Laboratory of Molecular Diagnostics. My advisors are the Drs. Suelen Paesi and Flaviani Magrini. I am a biological science student, and my work is called Strategy for Stabilizing a Microbiological Inoculum to Determine Methanogenic Activity. So, let's initiate. In 2023, the United Nations declared that we have gone through a phase of global warming, and we are now at a phase of global boiling. So this makes us think about two problems: the emission of greenhouse gases and the disposal of waste. So we have to think what we can do to solve these two problems. Biogas is one alternative, as it promotes the use of organic waste in the anaerobic digestion process to generate methane. Methane could be used to generate thermal, electrical, and when purified, vehicular energy. But to generate biogas, we need an inoculum. When I say inoculum, I refer to the set of microorganisms that are responsible for the creation, the production of methane. Therefore, the objective of this study was to determine metrics for the ideal conditions for a methanogenic inoculum. So we use a strategy called full stack radio based on the Norman method. So we collect 5 grams of fermentation substrate, the inoculum. We add 50 milliliters of distilled water, and we use a pH meter to measure the differences in pH. We make 2 titrations, one until the pH 5 and the second one until the pH 4.4. After this, we put the values of pH on these calculations to obtain the value of Fostack radio. Here are some Fostack reference values. A value of 0.3 to 0.4. It's an ideal value to production of methane, but a value of 0.2 or lower could be even better, because these show to us that the inoculum have a low amount of organic matter, and this allows the microorganisms to degrade more easily the substrates. Here are my results. This is the inoculum A. A started with a value of 7.20 and a pH of 5.43. After 2 days, it reached a peak of 11. And after a period of 35 days, the Fostack ratio reduced to an ideal value of 0.4. Simultaneously, the pH underwent a beneficial increase for the methanogenic activity, reaching 8. We can see in light green the Fostack value, and in the dark green the pH levels. Here's the inoculum B. It was purposefully adjusted with sodium hydroxide to pH 8 from 5.84. After 3 days, the Fostack value began to decline from 2.10 to 0.86. so not reach an ideal value. On the 11th day, it reached 2.63, exceeding even the initial value. Here are my final considerations. The inoculum A shows that ceasing the addition of organic matter is capable of stabilizing the microbiome. In the inoculum B, show us that pH regulation is a method that does not keep the microbiome stabilized. The process of stabilizing an inoculum is alive. It's made by microorganisms and therefore can take time. In order to draw conclusions about the adjustment and to better understand the variables of the stabilization process, more tests are needed. Here are my references, and thank you for your attention.
A apresentação número 13, então, com a aluna Luísa Ordovaz Bolzan.
Para eu passar é aqui só. Ah, tá. E se eu quiser? E se eu quiser colocar? So, my work is about the contributions of the neurodiversity approach to understanding autism. And as it says here, it's a narrative literature review. To first introduce our discussion, I must say that autism is a complex condition that affects one's development from early stages of life. And over time, different conceptions and theories and approaches have been put forward in attempts to understand and treat autism. I will only be mentioning my general objective to not be really long, but it was to analyze the contributions of the neurodiversity approach to understanding autism. My method consisted on a bibliographic research built on 18 articles from 2008 to 2023. And my first topic is the conceptual aspects of neurodiversity and autism. As I've said before, disputes over autism nosological status have been happening throughout the years. It was first appropriated by the psychoanalytic core, then after by the neurological and behavioral perspectives, to become what we know today as the autism spectrum disorder, or ASD. Then in 1999, a new perspective was brought by Judy Singer, and it was called the neurodiversity. It understood that the atypical neurological connections expressed a different way of existing. On the other hand, since Conti called normal the typical processes of human beings, pathological was everything that deviated from this pattern, including the disabilities, which led to ableism and over-medicalization. And what is the main part of my project? The contributions of the neurodiversity perspective to psychology and education. Just so you know, I had to shorten a bit of this part of the project, but we've been thinking about the strategies so we can build an anti-ableist school environment or academic environment based mainly on the joint work between teacher and student. And eventually, We understood that developing and reaffirming a positive neurodivergent identity could result on fewer typical people dropping out of school, greater inclusion in different educational levels, and a sense of belonging to the academic environment, finally. Talking about psychology, we've noticed a few changes in perceptions and practices. And the first one of them was the switch of the focus of treatment from disease to health, when the singular therapeutic plan appears as a very fundamental tool to every health services. But also the reviews of patterns of health and illness, and also of diagnostic assessments and interventions, led us to see disability as the cultural, social, and political identity it really is. And last but not least, the new main psychological analysis parameter is now the degree of suffering each person experiences. And all of this discussion has led us to problematize how should inclusion be thought of, and what paths could be built to make it possible. Eventually, we concluded that for the construction of inclusion, the guiding principle is not equality, but equity, and then care can be really improved. Some of our final considerations consist on the centrality of the autistic person when constructing their processes, that caring is one of the main competencies a psychology and educational professional can pursue to guarantee inclusion, and promoting the protagonism of the autistic person in their health and educational processes helps them achieve protagonism of their own lives as well. Now my references, and thank you.
Apresentação 4 com Pablo Corso.
Aqui na frente, tá? Aqui direita, esquerda, isso é bem intuitivo.
Hello everyone, my name is Pablo and I will present to you about ecofeminism and gender-based violence. So what's ecofeminism? Ecofeminism is a meeting between feminism and ecology, because these two knowledge and these two approach of studies have the same struggle. We can think about feminism as the social movement about the fight against the patriarchy and all his violence, and we can see the ecology as the the social movement that think about all the environmental degradation that capitalism and colonialism have doing for all these years. So between ecofeminism, we can see that feminism and ecology have the same struggle, that is the patriarchy, because when we see girls and women, we can see that have a lot of oppressive things and inequality things that is happening in environmental disasters and a lot of bad things in all of this world. So what's literally ecofeminism? Ecofeminism is a proposal of a critical analysis of the capitalist economy and at binary thinking that structures the world into opposing pairs, assigning them a hierarchical value. as man nature, good and evil, civilized and wild, which patriarchal Western society has developed as an ideological and philosophical complement to the power and the domination over nature. So, ecofeminism argues that the cause of violence to women and to nature came from the same root cause, that is the patriarchy. So, it's a proposal that emphasizes an alternative approach of gender relations, because we can see a lack of thinking of ecological things in feminism, and we can say a lack of gender-biased violence and racial and ethnical and other else things in ecology and ambientalist movements. So we can see the ecofeminism as an alternative to make a way to success two types of violence, that is ones. So this movement is an international and plural social movement. It's a really big and implied movement that we can't think this as just one movement, but a lot of approaches and a lot of forms of thinking. Here in Brazil, we can see a lot of groups that think as ecofeminism, such as Women Rural Workers National Articulation, Babaçu Coconut Breaker Interstate Movement, Northeast Rural Workers National Congress, Articulated Movement of Amazon Women, articulation of instances of women rural workers, March of Daisies, and peace and women movements, such as very more than this. So the conclusion is that ecofeminism is a really plural social movement and political movement that have a lot of view and a lot of political acts in the world, and else in oh my god. E também diante do... Oh my God. Perdão, gurizada. É difícil. E também about all the respect and equality, harmony with the environmental that we need to think in all of the approaches that we fight in social movement, not just in feminist, but as in gender and queer and racial and ethnics. And ecofeminist really does this. So these are my references, and thank you.
Apresentação 5, com Gisele Troian Guerra.
É aqui do Tá, perfeito. Já pode regular. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Gisele. And today I'm going to present the English version of the study that I present at the Encontro de Jovens Pesquisadores, which is called Violent Love, an Analysis of the Short Story Gesso by Jaridia Reis. First of all, I'm going to introduce by the abstract for you. So, the objective of this study is to analyze the narrative Gesso by the writer Jaridia Reis, which takes part in the short stories anthology Redemoinho em Dia Quente, under the feminist critic perspective. Our intention is to bring out the writings of the Black contemporary authorship, as well as discuss the construction of the main character, Doralice, and the violence suffered by the woman submissive to the male aggressor subject. Now we have the first topic, which is called the oppression and violence against women. So let's see some information about it. So it is a fact that society was based in an idea called gender binaries, which delegated superiority to men in submission to women. However, women decided to face the reality and started to fight for their rights. For example, the access to education, employment, politics, and the end of violence against women. Commonly, the violence is related to many reasons, such as normality, the fear settled in the victim, and the lack of representation inside the feminist movement. And groups who belonged to the minority needed to face the violence inside their houses due to the fact that they did not have the same rights as the feminist leaders. Now we have the second topic, which is called the appearance of a feeling called fear. So we have that the fear was always part of the civilizations for many reasons, like armed conflicts and diseases. In the age of enlightenment, it was thought that the fear would be overcome. However, this did not happen because the fear is a feeling that is part of the human being constitution. In fact, the human being started to fear other manifestations, especially during the modern age, such as death and violence. In other words, this showed that we were not safe anywhere. Also, the human being turned into a threat to the others because of his actions, terrorism, violent crimes, sexual assault, and many others. Finally, we can move on to the main plot of Gesso. The short story is about a woman named Doralice, who is constantly attacked by her boyfriend Sergio. In a certain day, she decided to stay in Socorro's house all night in order to avoid her violent boyfriend. So, while she was praying for the Virgin Mary, she also received warnings from her, most of them related to the fact that she was going to die very soon. Then, when the day after finally came, Sergio invaded Socorro's house and attacked Doralice. However, the woman had an idea while she was looking at the Virgin Mary statue. She decided to hit Sergio's head with the object. Finally, the story ended with the description of the pool of blood soaking the floor of Socorro's house. Now we can move on to the discussion about the construction of the character Doralice. First of all, it is a fact that the violence against women is common in the community that Doralice lives, because her neighbors do not seem to be worried about her condition. Also, although the fact that Doralice faced to be attacked by her boyfriend, she decided to face the reality and defended herself in order to do not be submissive anymore. Also, so this story shows that violence against the feminine subject is still part of the patriarchal society. And here we have our final considerations. To sum up, it is possible to conclude that Jarija Reis brings out a social issue that is constantly faced by women, the violence. It is important to consider that she created a woman character, Doralice, who is relevant for her actions, especially when she decided to attack her boyfriend Sergio. As a result, the author's literary productions are very important for nowadays. And these are my references. And this is my job. And thank you very much.
make a change. Oh, you know you'll always have me. Baby, I will always stay with you. So put your trust in me. We'll work it out, you'll see. If we get in a car and drive someplace far, yeah, we could go for a ride. The two of us, we don't have to stop. Baby, let's go for a ride.